The November rain hammered against the windows of Tyson Fury's Morecambe home as he sat in his study, surrounded by championship belts and framed photographs from his remarkable career. At 35, the Gypsy King had conquered every mountain in boxing, twice heavyweight champion of the world, defeater of Deontay Wilder, the man who'd risen from the darkest depths of depression to reclaim his throne. But it wasn't his latest victory or upcoming fight that occupied his thoughts this grey afternoon. Instead, his weathered hands held a simple white envelope that had arrived among the usual stack of fan mail, sponsor requests, and media inquiries. The return address read, Manchester Children's Foundation, but it was what lay inside that had stopped the usually talkative giant in his tracks. Written in careful, shaky handwriting, the kind that belongs to someone fighting just to hold a pen, were words that cut through every defense Tyson had built around his heart. Dear Mr. Fury, my name is Ismail Alcott and I am 11 years old. I have something called Hutchinson-Gilford progeria syndrome, which means my body is getting old very fast even though I'm still a kid. The doctors say I don't have much time left, maybe a few weeks. I've watched all your fights with my dad. When you got knocked down by Wilder and got back up, my mum said that's what brave looks like. I try to be brave like you every day, but it's getting harder. I don't want anything big. I just wanted to meet the champion before I go to sleep forever. If you can't come, that's okay. I know you're busy being the best heavyweight in the world. Thank you for teaching me that getting up is more important than getting knocked down. Love, Ismail. Attached to the letter was a small photograph, a thin girl with wise eyes that seemed too old for her young face, wearing an oversized Tyson Fury t-shirt and attempting a boxing pose. Despite her frail appearance, her smile radiated the kind of determination that Tyson recognized, the same fire that had carried him through his own darkest battles. Tyson set the letter down and walked to the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. In his career, he'd faced the most dangerous men in the world, men who could end his career with a single punch. He'd battled depression so severe that he'd considered ending his own life. He'd overcome addiction, weight gain, and public humiliation to reclaim his place as the best heavyweight boxer on the planet. None of that had prepared him for the impact of 11 simple sentences written by a dying child. Paris, he called to his wife, his voice unusually quiet. Come read this. Paris Fury entered the study, immediately sensing the shift in her husband's demeanor. After years of marriage, she could read Tyson's moods like sheet music, the bombastic confidence, the playful arrogance, the genuine warmth beneath the theatrical persona. This was different. This was vulnerable. She read the letter twice, her own eyes filling with tears. Oh, Tyson, this poor baby. I have to go see her, Tyson said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. Tomorrow. Of course you do, Paris replied, knowing her husband well enough to understand that this wasn't up for debate. But Tyson, you realize what this means? If word gets out, no media, Tyson interrupted. No cameras, no press releases, no publicity. Just me going to see a little girl who deserves to meet her hero. That evening, Tyson made 3 phone calls. The first was to his promoter, cancelling a scheduled press conference. The second was to Manchester Children's Hospital, speaking directly with Ismail's medical team to understand her condition and arrange a visit. The third was to a toy store in Manchester, requesting they stay open late so he could personally select something special. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the head of pediatric oncology at Manchester Children's Hospital, had worked with terminally ill children for over 15 years. She'd seen celebrities visit before, usually accompanied by entourages, photographers, and carefully staged photo opportunities designed to generate positive publicity. When Tyson Fury walked into her office the next morning, alone, except for a small teddy bear wearing tiny boxing gloves and a pair of signed boxing gloves tucked under his arm, she knew this was different. Doctor, Tyson said, his usual boisterous personality subdued, I need you to tell me everything about Ismail's condition. Not the sugar-coated version, not the hopeful version. The truth. Dr. Mitchell studied the giant man before her. Tyson Fury stood 6'9" and weighed over 270 pounds, his presence filling the small office. But in this moment, he seemed smaller somehow, humbled by the gravity of what he was about to face. Hutchinson-Gilford progeria syndrome affects approximately 1 in 20 million children, she began. It causes rapid aging. Ismail's body is aging at approximately 10 times the normal rate. She has the cardiovascular system of an elderly person, arthritis, hair loss, and significant weight loss. How long? Tyson asked quietly. Most children with progeria live to their early teens. Ismail is 11, and her condition is progressing rapidly. We're providing palliative care to keep her comfortable. Tyson nodded, absorbing the clinical reality of a young life measured in weeks rather than decades. What should I know before I see her? She's incredibly intelligent and mature for her age. Many progeria children are. She understands her condition. Her greatest joy comes from watching boxing matches with her father. She's memorized every one of your fights. As they walked through the hospital corridors toward Ismane's room, Tyson felt a familiar sensation, the same nervous energy he experienced before every major fight. But this wasn't about winning or losing, about championships or legacy. This was about bringing a moment of joy to a child facing the ultimate opponent. Outside room 247, Dr. Mitchell paused. Her parents, David and Sarah Elcott, are lovely people. They've been here around the clock for the past month. They're exhausted, but they'll do anything to make Ismane happy. Tyson took a deep breath, adjusted the teddy bear in his arms, and knocked gently on the door. "Come in," called a small voice from inside. When Tyson Fury stepped into that hospital room, he entered a world where championship belts and million-dollar purses meant nothing, where the only fight that mattered was the one being waged by an 11-year-old girl who weighed less than 60 pounds, but possessed the heart of a true champion. The hospital room was small and sterile, filled with the familiar hum of medical equipment and the antiseptic smell that Tyson had grown to associate with his own darker periods. But what struck him immediately wasn't the medical apparatus or the pale institutional walls, it was the explosion of color that Ismane had brought to the space. Boxing posters covered every available surface. Photographs of Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and Mike Tyson created a makeshift hall of fame above her bed. But dominating the display were images of Tyson Fury himself, fight stills, newspaper clippings, and hand-drawn pictures that showed remarkable artistic talent despite being created by hands affected by advanced arthritis. In the center of it all sat Ismane Elcott, and for a moment, Tyson forgot how to breathe. The photograph hadn't prepared him for the reality. Ismane looked decades older than her 11 years, her small frame hunched in a way that spoke of bones bearing weight they were never designed to carry. Her hair was thin and gray, her skin marked by the premature aging that characterized her condition. But her eyes were unmistakably those of a child, bright with intelligence and wonder. When she saw Tyson, those eyes lit up with a joy so pure and intense that he felt his own vision blur with unexpected tears. "You came," she whispered, her voice carrying a mixture of disbelief and overwhelming happiness. "You actually came." "Of course I came, champion," Tyson replied, his usual booming voice gentled to match the intimacy of the moment. When Ismane Elcott sends the Gypsy King an invitation, he drops everything. Her parents, David and Sarah, stood beside the bed. David, a maintenance worker from Oldham, wore clothes that had seen better days but were carefully pressed. Sarah, a part-time teaching assistant, had the hollow-eyed look of a mother who hadn't slept properly in months. Both seemed overwhelmed by the presence of the heavyweight champion in their daughter's hospital room. "Mr. Fury," David began, his voice thick with emotion, "we can't thank you enough for—" Tyson held up a massive hand, his attention focused entirely on Ismane. "The pleasure's all mine, mate. Now, Miss Elcott, I brought you something." He presented the teddy bear, and Ismane's face transformed with delight. The bear wore miniature boxing shorts and gloves with "Champion" embroidered across its chest. "He's beautiful," Ismane said, clutching the bear to her chest. "What's his name?" "That's up to you, champion. He's yours now." "Fury Jr.," she decided immediately, and Tyson laughed, a genuine, delighted sound that filled the small room. "And these," Tyson continued, producing the signed boxing gloves, "are from my victory over Deontay Wilder, the ones I wore when I got knocked down in the 4th round but got back up." Ismane's eyes widened as she examined the gloves, her small fingers tracing the signatures and fight details that Tyson had carefully inscribed. "You really wore these when you got up?" "After the knockdown." "I did indeed. And do you know what I thought about when I was lying on that canvas, looking up at the lights?" Ismane shook her head, hanging on every word. "I thought about every person who believed I couldn't do it, every voice that said I was finished, and I decided that getting up was the only way to prove them wrong." Tyson leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Just like you get up every day, even when it's hard. That makes you the real champion in this room." For the next 20 minutes, Tyson Fury became not the heavyweight champion of the world, but simply a friend visiting another friend. He told jokes that made Ismane giggle, silly voices and impressions that showcased a comedic talent few people ever saw. He sang, badly and off-key, making up songs about brave little girls who could beat up giants. He listened as Ismain recounted his fights with remarkable accuracy, correcting his own memory about specific rounds and combinations. Her knowledge was encyclopedic, her passion infectious. "My favorite fight of yours," Ismain said, her voice growing softer as their time together progressed, "was the first Wilder fight, the draw." "Why is that one your favorite?" Tyson asked, genuinely curious. "Because you didn't win, but you didn't lose either. Sometimes the best you can do is survive and keep fighting another day." Her old young eyes met his. "That's what I try to do." The wisdom in those words hit Tyson like a physical blow. Here was a child facing the ultimate opponent, discussing survival and perseverance with the matter-of-fact acceptance that he'd seen in only the greatest fighters. As their visit neared its end, Tyson found himself reluctant to leave. There was something about Ismain's presence that felt like a gift, her courage in the face of impossible odds, her genuine joy despite unimaginable circumstances, her ability to find strength in his own story of resilience. "Mr. Fury," Ismain said as he prepared to go, "can I tell you something?" "Anything, champion. When I watch you fight, when you get knocked down and get back up, it helps me forget that my body hurts. It reminds me that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what you have to do even when you are scared." She paused, gathering strength for what came next. "Thank you for making my body forget about the pain, even if it's just for today." Tyson Fury, the man who had faced down the most dangerous heavyweights in the world, who had battled depression and addiction, who had been written off as finished only to roar back stronger than ever, found himself unable to speak. He leaned down and gently kissed the top of Ismain's head. "You keep fighting, champion, promise me." "I promise," she whispered. As Tyson walked toward the door, David and Sarah Elcott accompanied him into the hallway. Both parents were crying openly, overwhelmed by the kindness their daughter had been shown. "Mr. Fury," Sarah managed through her tears, "you've given her the best day she's had in months. We'll never forget this." Tyson nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He shook hands with David, hugged Sarah briefly, and began walking toward the hospital's exit. But as he reached the lifts, something stopped him. An idea, perhaps inspiration, perhaps desperation, perhaps something more powerful than either, took hold. He turned around and walked back to room 247, his mind racing with possibilities that hadn't existed 20 minutes earlier. What happened next would transform not just Ismain's life, but the lives of hundreds of children facing their own impossible fights. Tyson Fury stood in the hospital car park, rain beginning to fall on the Manchester evening, his phone already in his hand. The 20 minutes with Ismain had shattered something inside him, but in the breaking, something else had been born. "Paris," he said when his wife answered, "I need you to get to the hospital. Bring your phone, bring the kids if they want to come, and call my social media team. No, forget that, I'll do this myself." "Tyson, what's happening? Are you all right?" "I'm about to do something that might be brilliant or completely mad," he replied, already heading back toward the hospital entrance. "But I can't leave that little girl to fight alone, not when there's a chance." Back in room 247, the Elcott family was settling into their evening routine, David reading aloud from a boxing biography, while Sarah helped Ismain with her medication. The visit from Tyson had energized Ismain in a way they hadn't seen for weeks, but now reality was reasserting itself. When Tyson reappeared in the doorway, all three looked up in surprise. "Sorry to interrupt," Tyson said, slightly out of breath from his rushed return, "but I've got an idea and I need your permission to try something." David and Sarah exchanged glances, uncertain but willing to listen. "Ismain," Tyson continued, addressing the girl directly, "you told me that watching me fight helps you forget the pain. What if we could help other people understand what you're going through? What if your story could inspire people the way my fights inspire you?" Ismain tilted her head, considering. "What do you mean?" "I want to make a video. You and me talking about fighting. Your kind of fighting. I want to show the world what real courage looks like." Dr. Mitchell, who had been monitoring from the doorway, stepped forward. "Mr. Fury, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but Ismain's privacy—" "It's okay, Doctor," Ismain interrupted, her voice stronger than it had been all day. "I want to help other kids like me. If my story can help, then I want to tell it." What followed was the most important 20 minutes of Tyson Fury's career, not because of any championship or paycheck, but because of what it would set in motion. Using David's phone, Tyson went live on his Instagram account. Within seconds, thousands of viewers began joining the stream, expecting perhaps an announcement about his next fight or a typical Tyson Fury promotional session. Instead, they found the heavyweight champion of the world sitting on a hospital bed next to a frail young girl, speaking with uncharacteristic seriousness. "Right. Listen up," Tyson began, looking directly into the camera. "This is Ismain Elcott, She's 11 years old and she's the bravest fighter I've ever met. She's got a condition called progeria that's trying to take her away from her family too soon. Ismaine, initially shy on camera, found her confidence as Tyson encouraged her to tell her story. She spoke about her love of boxing, about what it meant to get knocked down and get back up, about fighting every day against an opponent she couldn't see or touch. When Mr. Fury gets hit in the ring, Ismaine explained to the camera, he has 10 seconds to get up. I have to get up every morning, and some mornings are harder than others, but I keep getting up because that's what champions do. The live stream was supposed to last 5 minutes. It stretched to 20 as viewers began sharing the link across social media platforms. Comments poured in, not the usual mix of fight predictions and trash talk, but messages of support, love, and admiration for Ismaine's courage. But it was what Tyson said near the end that changed everything. Now, I know there's treatments out there, he continued, his arm protectively around Ismaine's shoulders. Experimental ones, expensive ones, ones that might not be available here in the UK. The Elcott family has been told there's nothing more that can be done, but I refuse to accept that. He looked directly into the camera, his voice carrying the same intensity he brought to pre-fight interviews. I'm asking every single person watching this to share Ismaine's story. I'm asking medical professionals to reach out if they know of options we haven't explored. And I'm asking anyone who can help, whether that's with expertise, resources, or just spreading the word, to step forward. This isn't about me being the heavyweight champion, Tyson continued. This is about being human beings who don't abandon our own when they need us most. By the time the live stream ended, it had been viewed by over 200,000 people across multiple platforms. But what happened in the hours that followed exceeded everyone's wildest expectations. Within 6 hours, the video had been shared over 50,000 times. Medical professionals from across Europe and America began reaching out with information about experimental treatments. A research facility in Zurich contacted the family directly about a new gene therapy trial specifically for progeria patients. More importantly, donations began flooding in, small amounts from ordinary people who had been moved by Ismaine's story, larger contributions from celebrities who had seen Tyson's post, and significant funding from medical foundations and pharmaceutical companies. Dr. Elena Hoffman from the University Hospital Zurich called Manchester Children's Hospital directly. The conversation with Dr. Mitchell was brief but transformative. We have a new treatment protocol, Dr. Hoffman explained. It's experimental and it's expensive, approximately $400,000 for the full course, but we've seen remarkable results in our first patients. If this child can get to Zurich within the next 3 weeks, we can include her in our expanded trial. By the morning after Tyson's visit, the impossible had become possible. The funding was there. The medical approval was being expedited. Transportation was being arranged. 3 weeks later, Tyson Fury stood in the departure lounge at Manchester Airport, watching as Ismaine Elcott, wearing her signed boxing gloves like talismans, prepared to board a private medical flight to Zurich. She was accompanied by her parents, 2 specialist nurses, and a bag containing Fury Jr., the teddy bear that hadn't left her side. "Remember what we talked about, champion," Tyson said, kneeling to her eye level. "This is just another fight, and we don't give up in fights." "Round 11, Ismaine replied, referencing the name they'd given to this new phase of her treatment, a reference to going beyond the traditional 10 rounds of a championship fight. 6 months later, in a conference room at his Morecambe training facility, Tyson Fury announced the establishment of the Round 11 Foundation. Ismaine Elcott, her condition significantly improved, though not cured, appeared via video link from Zurich, where she continued her treatment. "When I walked into that hospital room," Tyson told the assembled media, his voice quiet but firm, "I thought I was going to help a little girl. Instead, she taught me what fighting really means." He paused, looking directly into the cameras that would carry his words around the world. "Ismaine thought I had done something special for her, but the truth is, I walked out of that hospital room a different man. She didn't just remind me why I fight, she showed me what's worth fighting for." The Round 11 Foundation would go on to help over 200 children access experimental treatments, funding research into rare pediatric conditions and providing support for families facing the unimaginable. As for Ismaine Elcott, her prognosis remained uncertain, but her impact was undeniable. The girl who had written a simple letter to meet her hero had become a hero herself, proving that sometimes the greatest victories happen outside any ring, and that the most important fights are the ones we fight for each other. In boxing, they say it's not how hard you can hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. In life, as Tyson Fury learned from an 11-year-old girl, it's not about being the strongest or the fastest or the most famous. It's about getting up every day, no matter what. And sometimes it's about helping others get up too.